My name is Isra Chaker, and I'm so honored to be here with you all today. This is an incredible experience for me because, a while ago, I was also on college campus, also involved in my MSA. And so to be able to come back and speak to students that are involved in MSAs especially is very important for me. I've spent a lot of time over the past couple of years talking to MSAs and talking to chapters across the country. And I can tell you that I've seen firsthand the incredible work that you all do. The energy, the effort, and the time that you put in really does reap a huge impact. So I want to first commend you all for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. And please, even in these strange times of being all virtual and things really just shifting, continue to find opportunities to engage in these ways. Growing up visibly Muslim in Midwest America, Boulder, Colorado to be exact, I felt like an outsider and that I didn't belong. Even though I was born like everyone else, I spoke like everyone else, but because I didn't look like everyone else, I was made to feel not as American as everyone else. In high school, specifically, I was the only hijabi in a school of about 3,000 students. And I stood out like a sore thumb. Almost instantly, the bullying began. Being called derogatory names like terrorist, being told to go back to where I came from. Little did they understand that that was actually the hospital down the road. Being told that my family didn't belong here, that we weren't welcomed here, having students poke at my head with a stick walking down the hallways, having students trying to rip off my hijab as I would walk through different classes. The bullying got so bad that I truly believed that I didn't see myself staying in this school, that I didn't know how to continue to try to get an education and have, a normal teenage experience like every other 14-year-old was having. And it came to a point where I had to decide what I was going to do. Was I going to remove myself from the school and become homeschooled like the very few Muslim students in our community, if any of them were? Was I going to, not be as visibly Muslim because then it would make people comfortable and stop the bullying and attacks? Maybe it wouldn't. I just didn't know what to do at 14 years old. But I realized that there was an opportunity for me, and that was to do something about it and to take action to change the status quo. So I decided what was going to be my most powerful tool to be able to change the way the culture was at the school, because I was sure it wasn't just me who was being bullied, right? I knew that if you were diverse in any way, for whatever identity, you were being targeted in the school. And so I decided to use my most powerful tool, my voice, to do something about it. I created something called Diversity Panel. Diversity Panel is as cliche as it sounds, but I was 14 at the time. And it was essentially any student who was different in any way and was made to feel less than human, less than valuable, less than important because of their identities, to come together and to share our stories directly, and to have a space where we felt safe enough to share our stories in hopes of making the school one that was better, making the school one where people felt welcomed, where people felt safe, where people felt celebrated for their identities and what they brought to the table, versus being attacked and discriminated against because of it. So I really went around and I chose students who, again, were diverse in some way, who felt that they also had been bullied and wanted to see a difference in the school. And we came together with the help of a guidance counselor, and we started doing incoming orientation classes where we would do these panels. So as part of incoming freshman classes, you would sit there for orientation. And one of the things you had to do as part of orientation was attend diversity panel. And we sat just like that on a panel in front of a group of students, and we all shared our stories. And everybody shared whatever they felt comfortable sharing of their experiences. And they talked about how their identity, whether it was racial, ethnic, religious, ability, it didn't matter to us. All were welcomed to come share their experiences. And the impact of the actions of other people because of their identities had on them, and the bullying had on them. And after we shared our stories, a guidance counselor would come and facilitate a conversation with the students to see basically how people give their feedback and their thoughts and their feelings and reactions to everything. And I am not lying when I say that instantly we saw these walls of ignorance and hate and honestly misunderstanding fall down and these bridges of love and acceptance being built to replace them. We had students identify as bullies in the audience. Maybe not, they'd not bully the people that are in the room, but have bullied people like people in the room with those identities. And they had a really, incredible reaction saying that I've learned my lesson. I'm recognizing that I shouldn't have done what I've been doing. And now I see the other side of what my actions have as an impact. And they would commit to not doing that anymore. We had other students who talked about how they've been bullied, and had similar experiences that many of us shared on the panel, but not because, for example, they were Muslim like me, but because they were a different ethnicity, right, or a different race. And we started to see that there was so much similarity in our experiences, but also so much power in owning our narrative and sharing our story, that diversity panel was so successful that the principal asked us to share our stories to everybody and not just incoming freshman classes. So by the time I graduated, I had shared my story to over 3,000 students. And diversity panel really was a place where I was able to find my voice. I finally felt like the campus culture, the school culture was one of acceptance. And when I graduated, I remember saying in my remarks at graduation that when I first walked into the school, I couldn't have felt more like an outsider. But by the time I graduated, I felt like I had finally found a place for me, a place for people to feel accepted and welcomed. And so obviously I didn't recognize at the time that that was my first experience with advocacy and with activism or campaigning in any way. And when I went to college, I was sitting there thinking, what am I going to study in college? I have no idea, what I would be good at. But I recognized that one of the ways that I was doing in college, one of the things that I was doing in college was, well, in high school, I was dealing with this was sketching. I did a lot of drawing to sort of help me find a release and a way to express myself with all that I was going through. People do journaling, I did sketching, and I was pretty good at it. So I decided that maybe architecture was the way to go, because I wanted to create the spaces, right, that brought community together where people will feel welcomed. And I thought, that coupled with my love for drawing, I was going to do it. So I studied architecture, and in my college experience, studying architecture, I quickly realized that I wanted to be more actively engaged in what was happening on campus. And we had similar issues to what I had in high school: a lack of diversity, lack of inclusion, lack of representation, lack of funding for minority groups, including MSA and including different student groups that were focused on supporting minority communities. And I quickly realized there was an opportunity for me to engage. So I ran for student government, and I became the president of the architecture school, which meant that I got to be a senator on the school of, on the entire university. And I quickly realized, being a senator on the university student government, that there was a lot of opportunity to make a difference. And there was a lot of discrimination happening against students of color and Black students and other students who, again, came from vulnerable communities. And I realized that this is an opportunity for me to play. So I got involved in campus politics. I started running campaigns, and we had a lot of ups and downs, and I'll get to that story hopefully another time with you all. But ultimately, I realized that that is my place. I found my voice in that way, and I realized that I could create change by bringing communities and people together for that impact. So I quickly realized that I was not going to be an architect full time after college. But of course, coming from a family of immigrants who worked really hard to get me through college, I didn't have the privilege to start over again. And so I decided I was going to finish my education with architecture, but I'd pursue a different opportunity after. So I decided to be an activist, and I told my parents that I was a social advocate, a social architect, someone who brought people together and created change. And of course, at first they said that that didn't exist, and that I should probably think about dentistry, which I'm sure a lot of us have experienced with our parents. But when they saw how committed I was to creating social change and making a positive impact, they supported me. And that is what has led me to the career that I am living today. And living in the current state of the world of affairs today, I see challenges that seem to be big and impossible, especially for youth to change. Youth are experiencing the negative consequences of discriminatory policies and rhetoric. And while the world feels overwhelming for many of us and out of our control, what is in our control is that is how we react to these and respond to these challenges. And as youth, you need to recognize that your voice matters, and it can move mountains. No matter what anyone tells you, your opinions, your passions, your identities, and dreams matter. and need to be heard, fostered, and encouraged by your family, by your friends, by your community. So don't be scared to take action. Change won't happen until we all play our role individually and collectively to make it happen. Don't doubt yourself. Don't give up. Participate in making a positive change. There's so much that you can do in your MSA and on campus. There's so many ways to engage. Changes anywhere and everywhere. You see an opportunity that includes everything that you can imagine in your communities and your families and your schools, offline and online. Show up for your community, not just your Muslim community, but humanity overall. Be an active ally or accomplice, as we like to call it, who recognizes your privilege and mobilizes it and mobilizes yourselves and others to commit to supporting others in their fight. Showing up can look like attending a virtual rally, attending a virtual event, organizing a get out the vote exercise, making sure people get out the vote in your local community, finding ways to donate to different causes of humanitarian crises happening around the world, constantly learning and staying engaged on current and historical injustices, and on amplifying the voices of those directly impacted by those injustices. There are infinite ways to take action. I wish I could get into that longer here, but I know that we're limited on time. But I really just want to reiterate one more message to you all, and I hope to stay connected with you all after this, is that we need you. You are our anchor. That is not a cliche statement. I used to believe that my voice didn't matter. I used to believe that as youth, we were told that we didn't belong, that we should listen to our elders, that we had no space for us. But when you create that space, and when you're passionate about your voice and you continue to persist, people will listen and change will happen. So you are the hope that will lead future generations in light, justice, and equality. Please stay in touch with me. If you need any guidance or any support on things that you want to do with your on your campus, I'm at Isra Speaks on social media. I look forward to staying in touch with you all. And I just look forward to seeing all the incredible things you continue to do this year and taking the challenges that we're facing and making the most of them. Jazakallahu khair.